All right. Good evening, everyone. We'll call to order the regularly scheduled virtual meeting of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. Today is Wednesday, the 6th of January, 2021, and it's 7 p.m. The board members present tonight are Vice Chairman Lawrence Harris, Dick Peterson, Elizabeth Conger, and my name is Jimmy Praley. Also present tonight with us, we have City Attorney Mike Lyles and Deputy City Clerk Cynthia Gaines. Has everybody had the chance to review the minutes of last month's meeting, December 2nd, 2020? And if so, are there any additions, corrections, or modifications?
I move for acceptance.
I second.
Okay, motion for approval of the minutes has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, the minutes stand approved. Before we get into the public hearing tonight, I'd like to state for the record that since we're dealing with a virtual hearing, anyone who wishes to submit public testimony may do so by way of written testimony to be submitted as part of the official record. Anyone wishing to submit written testimony may do so by going to www.annapolis.gov/ABC. That brings us to tonight's public hearing. So with that, I will declare the public hearing open. The one item on the agenda tonight for public hearing is an application for a new license for 110 Compromise Restaurant LLC, trading as 110 Compromise Restaurant. We have an application for a new Class B4 XAB beer, wine, and liquor license on sale 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, 7 days a week with a special Sunday license. In addition, sales is authorized from 12 midnight to 2 a.m. In addition, off sale Monday through Saturday during authorized hours. In addition, off sale Sunday during authorized hours, the special Sunday license by Steve Phillips, Daniel Keenan for the entity known as 110 Compromise LLC, trading as 110 Compromise Restaurant, which is located at 110 Compromise Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. And I see we have Mr. Dales here tonight on behalf of the LLC. Mr. Dales, if you could just put your name and address on the record for us.
Yep. Phil Dales, Liv Walsh and Simmons at 181 Harry S. Truman Parkway, Suite 200, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
And then everybody who's planning on testifying, if you could take your cameras off, I guess, there we go. And Mr. Phillips, if you could do that as well, if possible.
Mr. Braley, Mr. Chair, I think that
Sure.
maybe on his telephone, and so you may have to ask him to raise his hand wherever he is.
Oh, okay, sure. And yeah, if he's on his telephone, that's.
No, he's not. He's on a video. Sorry.
Okay. And then is Mr. Bruno going to be testifying as well?
I asked Ms. Bruno to go ahead and swear in.
Okay, great. So everybody who's planning on testifying, please raise your right hand and I'll administer the oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct? Could you guys both actually, I saw you move your mouths, but you're both on mute.
Bottom left corner of the screen, guys.
I do.
Okay. And everybody who's planning on testifying, we'll start with Mr. Keenan. If you could state your full name and address for the record. You're on mute, Mr. Keenan. Mr. Phillips, if you want to give your name and address first.
Yes, Stephen B. Phillips, and I live in Annapolis, 1600 North Winchester Road, Annapolis, Maryland.
Thank you. And Mr. Keenan's getting some help.
IT support.
Came in quick.
We move to Mr. Bruno.
Yeah, Mr. Bruno, if you want to just state your name and address for the record.
John A. Bruno, 1724 Severn Forest Drive, Annapolis, 21401.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair, I do plan on asking Mr. Keenan to state his address for the record later during testimony, and I am going to proffer some information so we could get started while they work on the IT.
Sure, that's fine, Mr. Dales. You can go ahead and begin your presentation. We'll get the address after we fix the technology issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all members of the board and city attorney and city clerk who are here tonight for spending your time being here this evening. I know it was a strange and difficult day for the whole country, and it's just a smaller business we have here, but I'm glad we can attend to it tonight. The application you have before you is for 110 Compromise Restaurant, LLC. The licensee applicants are, as Mr. Braley identified, Mr. D. Michael Keenan and Mr. Steve Phillips, who are applying for a B4 XAB license.
Thank you.
And I would like to confirm that the clerk has received the affidavits of posting for the sign, which was posted on the building, and the affidavits of mailing notice to those within 200 feet of the property. I believe Ms. Gaines previously did confirm that, so it's all right if she's not. It doesn't need to confirm it again here. I think she's on mute.
Yes, I did receive that.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Gaines. Also, as a preliminary matter, the applicants are requesting a change to the date of license pickup so that that date will be issued for July 1st, 2021. We're making that change in hopes of sunnier times and the thought that we might be able to have a outdoor restaurant operating under the recovery zone permits, steamed crabs and beer outdoors on the beautiful deck that's part of this property. So we're requesting that change now. The application states a much later date. So in the interest of saving some time this evening in lengthy testimony and questions, I'm going to proffer to the board a lot of the restaurant concept and description of the space. And I'll start by saying that I'm assuming that everyone has read the approval from the Board of Appeals exception, and that includes a lot of the details for the restaurant that's seeking a license here tonight. That being said, I'm going to characterize the approval under the special exception here tonight, just for the board's benefit and setting up our conversation testimony from the licensees. And to orient everyone, this is for the old Fawcett building, which is 110 Compromise. It's part of City Dock, which is a well-known landmark to everybody in Annapolis. And recently, 110 Compromise has had a lot of highly public decisions since the closure of Fawcett. There were many different public forums for the rezoning of the property, discussion about what the use of the property should be, and ultimately, after rezoning, the applicant, Mr. Keenan's LLC, purchased the property and redeveloped the lovely building that's there now. There have been many approvals for that, site design plan, a bunch of historic preservation commission approvals, and most recently, the Board of Appeals held a hearing for a special exception in June of 2020 and issued an opinion and order approving the restaurant special exception on August 4th, 2020. And that approval was attached as a part of our application, as were the floor plans used for the application in that special exception. So those have been incorporated again here. The restaurant that was included there has 2 levels, as you can see in the floor plans, and the renderings included in those drawings. And there are 176 indoor seats in the first floor and 68 outdoor seasonal seats, and 112 indoor seats and 106 outdoor seats on the second floor. So in total, that's 288 indoor and 174 outdoor, which are only available on a seasonal basis during weather that's nice enough to allow outdoor seating. Since Fawcett left, which was over 10 years ago now, this building has been mostly vacant even after its redevelopment, and the special exception in this application are an effort to change that and restore a lively gathering place for dining and building community at this key property. So especially after the challenges that we've gone through today, that will be a relief to have a familiar part of our downtown back. So with regard to the criteria that are necessary for approval of this license, which are found in section 4-210 of the alcoholic beverages article. I will also proffer that to the board, the applicants have demonstrated compliance with all criteria in the materials submitted with the application. I'll also proffer that Mr. Phillips and Mr. Keenan are well-known, long-standing members of the local and regional business communities, and that both are fit persons to hold a liquor license. Additionally, as demonstrated previously in front of the Board of Appeals, and I hope again with our application that you've all received, the proposal here is for a very unique use in Annapolis, and a use that will not be detrimental to the public, but rather a benefit. There are no other such waterfront locations as the proposed location for this license, and the architecture and layout approved with a special exception, which is what we're asking for the license to be applied to, are one of a kind. There's a dual concept described in the special exception for casual crab and seafood dining on the first floor, and then on the second floor, tapas and fine dining and a cocktail environment. And the views from the second floor of this building are unmatched around town. So with that, I will call Mr. Steve Phillips for a few short questions and testimony. And Mr. Phillips, if we could start by you just restating your full name for the record.
Yeah, Stephen B. Phillips, CEO of Phillips Foods and Seafood
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. And you already stated—
Restaurants. Address is 1600 North Windsor Road in Maryland. Pardon?
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Appreciate it. And you already had stated that you're a resident of Annapolis and gave your address. I just want to restate for the board that means Mr. Phillips is a resident of Anne Arundel County. And Mr. Phillips, you are also a member of the LLC that is the applicant for the license tonight, correct? I think we've got some technical difficulties here. And Mr. Phillips, if you can hear me, the picture is frozen on our end, so you may want to dial in using the phone number or just try to reconnect with video. Okay, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'll suspend my testimony from Mr. Phillips and move to questions for Mr. Keenan while we wait for Mr. Phillips to perhaps rejoin us.
Yeah, that's fine, Mr. Dales, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Keenan, could you restate your full name for the record? And since you were having technical difficulties earlier, give your address, please.
Yeah, it's Daniel M. Michael Keenan, 1716 Severn Forest Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Okay, thank you. Now, it looks like Mr. Phillips has gotten back on here. Steve, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay,
That's
great.
Phillips.
Mr. Chair, I'll move back to my questions for Mr. Phillips and then come back to Mr. Keenan in a moment.
Sure.
Okay, so Mr. Phillips had already indicated that he is a resident of Anne Arundel County, which is one of the requirements for a licensee and the license that we're requesting. So Mr. Phillips, my next question for you is, can you confirm that you are a member of the LLC that is the applicant for the license tonight?
That is correct.
Thank you. And roughly how many years of experience in the restaurant industry do you have, Mr. Phillips?
Well, I've been in it my whole life, basically. My mother and father, Bryce and Shirley Phillips, started a seafood restaurant down in Ocean City in 1954. So been in the business a long time.
All right, thank you very much. And the board may be aware that you previously held a license in the city with the Phillips Crab Deck. Did you ever have any violations of the city code or the board rules under that license that you're aware of? I think we might have technical difficulties again here.
I'm having a problem, I guess, with the, you have to ask that again.
My question was, you had a restaurant in town before, and I just wanted to ask you, are you aware of having had any violations of the city code or the board's rules under that license that you held previously in town? I will proffer to the board, pending Mr. Phillips coming back, that we discussed this.
No, wait, of course, it's been many years ago. I can't remember because, we all did this.
I didn't quite catch all that, but Mr. Dales, if you want to proceed with
Pardon?
proffer, that's we'll accept the proffer from you.
Okay, Steve, we couldn't hear you there for a moment. If you're back, what was your answer to that question? I think Mr. Phillips and I have discussed this previously, and his answer to the question was that
We've always had a great relationship with the city of Annapolis.
okay, sorry about that to the members of the board. And Mr. Phillips, I'm sorry, it's just that your audio is coming in and out sort of in bursts, and it makes it hard for me to know what parts of the question you've heard. So I'll just proffer that Mr. Phillips has told me that he wasn't aware of any licenses and has always had a good relationship with the city. So now, Mr. Phillips, you understand that as a holder of the liquor license, you would be responsible for violations, even if you're not present yourself for the day-to-day operations, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And last, if you don't get cut off again here, Mr. Phillips, could you just tell the board on the subject of the public need for the license, what initially drew you to this site and this restaurant, and why you believe a seafood and cocktail concept would do well in this location once the pandemic is over?
Well, as I've said many times before, it's a beautiful location. Downtown Annapolis is a very special place. It really needs a need for a restaurant, seafood restaurant there, and some activity along the waterfront. It's a shame to see the space empty. But it's also been a very tough year with the coronavirus and all. It's just been very, very difficult for restaurants, as everyone knows.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phillips. It has been a tough and unpredictable year. I'm sure that once the restrictions are removed, there will be a boom of people looking to get out and socialize again, and hopefully enjoy crabs and cocktails. So I think now I will get back to calling Mr. Keenan, if that's all right. Thank you again, Mr. Phillips. Appreciate it very much. And Mr. Keenan, you had stated your address for the record. And I would point out to the board that means we have the resident requirement covered twice here with these licensees. And Mr. Keenan, you are the second and only other member of the LLC that is the applicant for the license tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And can you tell the board about your connection with the property?
Well, myself and my partner, purchased the property as the LLC 110 Compromise Street. And we originally saw the opportunity for a redevelopment downtown, which sorely needed it because of the vacancy in the old Phillips property. And, so we actively involved the community and got feedback and solicited everybody's inputs. And we've concluded that a combination of maritime and restaurant was the ideal use of the building. We've been very active in the community, getting input about everything, and we've consistently been getting people that are just dying to be able to see the view from the rooftop, which will be spectacular, of downtown. And it also allows everybody to be able to have waterfront dining, which is sorely needed when visitors and residents both want to come down to the waterfront. So
it's always a surprise to me to realize how little waterfront dining we have, despite all of our waters, how much edge to the water we have. There's really not a lot of opportunity to sit next to it and enjoy it. Now, in fact, Mr. Keenan, in addition to being a member of 110 Compromise Restaurant LLC, which is the applicant tonight, you're also the managing member of the LLC, which owns the property, which is called 110 Compromise Operator, correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And you understand that as a holder of the license that you'd be responsible for violations under the license, even if you're not present yourself in the day-to-day operations, correct?
Correct.
And to that point, although you have not historically been involved with the restaurant business, you went through the effort of becoming trained in alcohol awareness yourself and became certified. Is that right?
That's correct. Well, I haven't become certified. I've taken the exam.
Right. And I'd like to take that opportunity to ask the clerk again if she received the exhibit we sent showing proof of Mr. Keenan's having taken that exam.
I did.
Thank you, City Clerk. So we'd like to introduce that certificate just to be part of the record. And now, Mr. Keenan, since you're not only a member of the applicant for the license LLC, but you are also an owner of the building, you're particularly capable of ensuring that the license and the property itself are both used in conformance with all city laws and board rules. As a licensee, you will ensure that that's the case, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you again. So last, I'm going to return to the subject of public need, and you had touched on this in your opening comments, but could you tell the board about your decision, you know, what you heard from the public as you decided to put a restaurant in here, and what demand did you hear for a restaurant at this location?
Well, we've consistently heard from everybody that we've solicited input from that they would love to have a restaurant there. I mean, residents, politicians, staff, everybody seems to believe it's the perfect use for the building.
And the Board of Appeals agreed. It's been a long process getting through the Board of Appeals and now finally to this hearing. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and
been many years working on this.
For the time that it's taken going through all of this, has any of your initial impression about the demand for a restaurant license here changed?
No, never.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that'll be it for Mr. Keenan. And since Mr. Bruno took the trouble of joining us tonight and was sworn in, I'll also ask if he would want to add to that final question. Mr. Bruno, what was your experience in hearing from the public and in assessing the need to put a restaurant tenant and this license into your building at 110 Compromise?
Been in Annapolis 50 years, spent a good amount of time downtown, especially doing the development of this project, which has been about 8 years. Just knowing a lot of people, there is one question on everybody's mind every time we're out. When is the restaurant going to open? They don't care about the maritime uses. They care about one thing, the restaurant, who's going in, what it's going to be like. They can't wait to be there. I've taken so many people on numerous tours through the property because they wanted to see how well you can see the Chesapeake Bay, Spot Creek, and right up Main Street. Pretty spectacular.
It is. I've had the opportunity to be there with the owners, and it's turned out really well. Thank you very much to all of the witnesses. And with that, I will conclude our presentation to the board and ask if the board has any questions. I'll take those now.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Dales. Did we get Mr. Bruno's address for the record?
I believe you did, but Mr. Bruno?
Yes, you did. I'll give it to you again.
Okay.
17. Got it. Okay.
We got it. I apologize. I didn't hear it first round. Sorry. So who is actually going to be involved in the day-to-day operation of the restaurant? Who are you guys planning on hiring a manager, that sort of thing?
Mr. Fraley, it's I think pretty clear that neither of the licensees here will be day-to-day operations. They're just going to be responsible for the license. And as COVID changes, everything about the restaurant industry, the staffing is, in flux, and deciding on who's going to be in charge day-to-day is going to be a decision closer to when the construction's complete. But Mr. Keenan indicated that the restaurant and anybody in it will be required to comply with all the rules and regulations. I will ask Mr. Keenan now, will you require that whoever's in charge of day-to-day also has alcohol awareness training as you do?
Absolutely. With me being liable, you can count on it.
Thank you.
Good answer. Good answer. And Mr. Dales, when you started your presentation, you had indicated that the pickup date is July 1st, 2021 that you guys are shooting for, right?
That's right.
Okay. If that date changes, be sure to notify Ms. Gaines if you want to do it earlier, if you want to do it later, just so that we have that. Mr. Phillips, I know that you're very well versed in alcoholic beverage sales. Mr. Keenan, Mr. Bruno, you all are just entering into this. Have you all had the opportunity to review this board's rules and regulations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you have any questions at all, I would advise you to Mr. Dales. He knows them thoroughly. Or if he's unavailable, to reach out to Miss Gaines or somebody at the clerk's office. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the board have any questions for the applicants or for council?
I don't really have a question. I would just like to suggest to all three of you that we've been recommending, although it's not required, that anybody serving alcohol be tips trained, just so that they know all the rules and what to look for.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I had told the clients that they would be well advised to have all people serving alcohol be alcohol awareness trained.
Great, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about the menu in addition to serving alcoholic beverages? What type of restaurant is this?
So
I heard the term seafood, but what does that entail?
So, Mr. Harris, I'll answer that with regard to the concept that we put forward in the special exception. Of course, things may change a bit before we go and pick up the license and it's issued. But in the application justification that we use for that, which I didn't include here, we describe the concept as casual seafood on the first floor. So steamed crabs, mussels, clams, all variety of seafood, and also that'll be the case outside on the deck, which is along Ego Alley. And then upstairs will be small plates, and we'll also have the seafood selections, but in a little bit of a different format, a little bit more fine dining. And like I said in my introduction, the upstairs will also be beer, wine, and cocktails in a more refined bar type atmosphere, whereas downstairs will remind you more of a traditional crab house, as it's described in that statement we put forward in the special exception.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from any board members? Okay. I don't think there's anybody here to testify in support or against this request. Cindy, did we receive anything, any opposition or any public comment prior to the hearing?
Did not.
Okay, great. That makes it easy. Mr. Dales, anything else that you would like to add, or any of the applicants?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Okay, well, with that, do I hear a motion for this request for a new Class B4 XAB beer, wine, and liquor license on sale 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, 7 days a week with the special Sunday license? In addition, sales as authorized from 12 midnight to 2 a.m. In addition, off sale Monday through Saturday during authorized hours. In addition, off sale Sunday during authorized hours, the special Sunday license, by Steve Phillips and Daniel Keenan for the entity known as 110 Compromise LLC, trading as 110 Compromise Restaurant, located at 110 Compromise Street, Annapolis, Maryland 21401.
I move.
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Do we have any comments, questions, or any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's it. The request is granted. Congratulations.
Good luck.
And good
Thank
night,
you.
Thank
everyone.
you. Appreciate
Good
it.
luck.
Good luck.
Good night.
Hey, Ellen? Yeah. You gotta give me help here.
I'm not alone.
I'm trying to get off now.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Take your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, we still have Mr. Phillips. But with that, I will declare the public hearing closed, which brings us to our business and miscellaneous section of tonight's agenda. The next item is a request for an open to the public event #1 for club license, the American Legion Cook Pickney Post 141 dinner for veterans and guests. Before us is a request for an open to the public event #1 for the American Legion Cook Pinckney Post 141 for a dinner and dinner for veterans and guests, which is scheduled for Friday, January 15th, 2021 from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. located at 1707 Forest Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. And I see Mr. Jones here on behalf of the American Legion. Mr. Jones, if you could state your name and address for the record.
It's Curtis D. Jones at 1400 Breton View Road, Annapolis, Maryland, 21409.
Okay, thank you very much. You can begin your presentation. Tell us a little bit about your event.
Basically, it's going to be a dinner for the veterans, and we can only have, because of the COVID rule, we can only have 40 people because we're reduced to 25% capacity in the hall. So that's a total of 40 people. And we're inviting the outside public. If we don't have 40 veterans show up, that's why we're only inviting the outside public to make up the 40 people. And we will have security, and we will have someone checking IDs. I will be there. And it's going to be a dinner, a sit-down dinner. And that is the gist of it. It's a fundraiser at the same time. That will be our first event for the year.
That first one, the Phillips, took a long time.
Okay. Are you planning on keeping track of everybody who comes into the event in order to make sure you're under the 25% capacity, or are there reservations? How does that work? Why don't you tell us a little something about that?
Well, we'll have tickets, and also at the door when you walk in, we'll be taking the temperatures of everyone, and we'll have a COVID sign-up sheet. Actually, for protocol, we do that right now. So whoever comes through the door, anyway, we put down who you are, your phone number, and your temperature, just in case someone does get sick in the future, and they say, well, we're at the American Legion or whoever, we can track it and send it to the health department.
Okay, and you indicated that this is a sit-down dinner. Is there a time where people will be up from the table and mingling around before sitting down, or is it you come in, go directly to your table, and that's it?
Yep, you're gonna come in and you go directly to the table.
Okay.
It's not a mingling type deal, because the rules are that once you come in to sit down to eat, that's it. You sit down, you don't walk around, you don't mingle.
Okay. Okay, do any members of the board have any questions?
I think he covered all the all the COVID questions.
Well, since COVID happened, I've been kind of a stickler for all that stuff too. I count heads. Like in our bar area, for instance, we're allowed to have 48 by law, but with 25% capacity, that brings it down to 11 people, and that's including the bartender. So I took out all the chairs to make sure there are only 10 chairs in there, and the one bartender makes 11. I won't even walk in if there's 10 people in there. I count the bartender, I'll stand outside the door and look in and start counting heads. If I see one too many head, I go, hey, look, you got to get out.
That's good.
I mean, that's the way it has to be.
Yeah. Okay.
And masks are required.
Yeah.
Even for the dinner, because you can only take the mask down off your face once you're putting food in your mouth. So I'm just, for lack of a better term, I'm an a-hole about this. I want to survive.
We appreciate people who play by the rules. So with no additional questions from any members of the board, do I hear a motion for approval of this open to the public event number 1 for the American Legion Cook Pinckney Post 141 for a dinner for veterans and guests scheduled for Friday, January 15th, 2021 from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. located at 1707 Forest Drive in Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
I forward the
Move
motion.
approval, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion has been moved, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Jones, congratulations. Your request is granted. Be safe.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank
Ladies.
you. All right. Next item on the agenda, we have a proposed amendment to the rules of procedure of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board with deliberation and vote here. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Mr. Lyles to describe and explain the proposed amendment, if that's all right with you, Council.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the problem that we were having, given that we have this COVID issue, is that many folks who had applied, we were overlapping into a new year, and some overlapping into the point where they had to, by rule, get another background check, including fingerprinting. And so what we're trying to do with this, some of the individuals had already gotten the fingerprinting within, say, a few months. And because there were delays with getting meetings and getting hearings, getting applications in and ABC meeting, we thought that this would allow the board some flexibility in allowing those who had a recent, within, say, the past 12 months, fingerprint background check to come before you without having to go through that again, when it may have been done pretty recently.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the proposed amendment? Seems pretty straightforward, pretty cut and dry, prevents people from having to go back and pay for fingerprinting again. So I think it's okay.
Makes sense.
All right. Well, if there aren't any questions or comments on it, do I hear a motion to approve this revision and this amendment as drafted?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
All right. The motion has been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor in approving the amendment as drafted signify by saying aye.
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 All right. It passes. Cindy, did I jump the gun on something?
That's okay. Can you just restate that with an effective date, please, for the amendment?
Oh, sure. We didn't discuss an effective date, but when do you guys, anybody have want this effective? Do you want it effective? How? I mean, I'm happy to have it effective immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Let me ask Cindy something, Mr. Chair. Did we have a couple of these that were in process, Cindy, already?
In terms of proposed amendments?
No, any applications where people had just gotten the, any chain applications where people had already had the background check within the last year?
It only had happened one time. So no, we don't have any in process right now. So the first time was resolved.
All right, okay. So yeah, immediately, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Okay. All right, well then we'll, if it's okay with the board, we'll amend the motion to make this effective immediately. And do I have a second on that?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And this will become effective immediately. Thank you all.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Next step, we have a couple matters to discuss in an executive session. So I will make a motion that we leave the live broadcast and reconvene in executive session. Have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor